you very much. Good morning, everyone. In Midtown Manhattan early this morning, 50-year-old Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthCare, was shot and killed in what appears at this early stage of our investigation to be a brazen, targeted attack. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. The victim was in New York City to speak at an investor conference. It appears the suspect was lying in wait for several minutes. And as the victim was walking to the conference hotel, the suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds, striking the victim at least once in the back and at least once in the right calf. Many people passed the suspect, but he appeared to wait for his intended target. The suspect fled, first on foot, then on an e-bike, and was last seen in Central Park on Center Drive early this morning. The victim was removed to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced. We've been in touch with his family, his friends, and his colleagues, and they are very much in our thoughts and prayers at this hour. The full investigative efforts of the New York City Police Department are well underway, and we will not rest until we identify and apprehend the shooter in this case. The women and men of the NYPD take enormous pride in the work that they do each day and each night to drive down crime and violence in our city. Right now, we are asking the public for your help. If you have any information about this case, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. We have increased the reward in this case to $10,000. I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack. Millions of people will be enjoying the tree lighting tonight, among other holiday events, and the NYPD will be out there with them, keeping them safe. For some preliminary details about today's tragic incident, I pass it over to our Chief of Detectives, Chief Joe Kenny.
Thank you, Commissioner. The information I'm about to give you is preliminary as our investigation is continuing. This morning at 6:46 a.m., patrol officers from Midtown North Precinct responded to a 911 call of a person shot in front of the Hilton Hotel located at 1335 Avenue of the Americas. This is between West 53rd Street and West 54th Street. At 6:48 a.m., officers arrive and find the victim, Brian R. Thompson, a 50-year-old male, on the sidewalk in front of the Hilton with gunshot wounds to his back and leg. Mr. Thompson was removed by EMS to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 7:12 a.m. Mr. Thompson is the CEO of UnitedHealthCare and resides in Minnesota. Detectives from Night Watch, Midtown North Detective Squad, and Manhattan South Homicide responded to the scene and began their investigation. What we know is that the shooter arrived at the location on foot about 5 minutes prior to the victim's arrival. He stands alongside the building line as numerous other people and pedestrians pass him by. From video, we see at 6:44 a.m., the victim is walking alone towards the Hilton after exiting his hotel across the street. We believe the victim was headed to the Hilton Hotel to attend the United Health Group Investors Conference that was scheduled to start at 8 a.m. The shooter appears to be a light-skinned male. He's wearing a light brown or cream-colored jacket, a black face mask, black and white sneakers, and a very distinctive gray backpack. The shooter steps onto the sidewalk from behind the car. He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back. The shooter then walks toward the victim and continues to shoot. It appears that the gun malfunctions as he clears the jam and begins to fire again. The shooter then flees on foot northbound into an alleyway between 54th Street and 55th Street. Once at West 55th Street, the shooter continues to walk westbound on the Avenue of the Americas, where he gets onto an electric e-city bike and rides northbound on the Avenue of Americas towards Central Park, where at 6:48 a.m., we have the shooter riding this bike into Central Park at Center Drive. At the scene, we recover 3 live 9mm rounds and 3 discharged 9mm shell casings. The motive for this murder currently is unknown, but based on the evidence we have so far, it does appear that the victim was specifically targeted, but at this point, we do not know why. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. We are seeking information from the public to help identify the shooter. As the commissioner said, we have upped the reward of up to $10,000 for information. You're urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. All information will be kept anonymous. Thank you very much.
All right, well, we're going to open up to a couple of questions. We're going to start off with Shimon, CNN.
So it's about an hour and 20 minutes before the start of the conference. Is there any indication that he was going to meet someone? Because it's pretty early. Is he on his way to meet someone there at the conference?
He leaves the hotel dressed like he's going to be attending the conference. We're working with his coworkers and other people that he planned on attending the conference with to get that information. But as of right now, he's in charge of the conference. So we believe he was getting there to help set up.
And then just the city bike, if I may. Do we know where that city bike is now? Does he dock it or does he keep riding it?
We're still tracking video. The last we see with him on that bike is in Central Park.
Is there a way to track that bike?
There are GPSs on those bikes. We'll be working with the company.
All right, we're going to move over to NJ Berkeley.
Thank you. Chief, were any words exchanged? If so, what were the words? And I'm told a cell phone was recovered in an alleyway on his escape route. Does that appear to be connected to the suspect?
We're working through that cell phone. Obviously, we'll be processing it forensically. And as far as words being exchanged, we do not have audio of the incident. We only have the regular video.
But nothing from witnesses?
Nothing. Well, there was one witness standing right next to the victim when he was shot. We're still trying to identify that victim. Excuse me, that witness.
We're going to go over to Aaron Katursky.
Thank you. Chief, was he checked into the hotel across the street alone? Was he in the city alone? Was he accompanied by anybody? Did he have any known enemies or anyone that you've been able to find so far?
Like I said, we're reaching out to law enforcement in Minnesota, and we're also interviewing his co-workers and family members to see if there have been any specific threats against him in the past. As far as who was he in the hotel with, we're doing a search warrant in his hotel room right now. That might lead us, give us some more information.
All right, we're going to go over to Dean Moses.
A couple of questions. One, based on the surveillance we've seen of this individual, do you feel like he's professional? You mentioned that he did the bullet style. Do you feel like this was a professional individual who took this man's life? And also, will it affect in any way tree lighting tonight?
I'll answer the part about whether or not he's a professional. That we have no way of knowing that. From watching the video, it does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly. But as far as the tree lighting, I'll leave that to Chief Madrick.
Yes. Good morning, Dean. Just really quick, this incident will not affect the tree lighting. The tree lighting is slated to start at 7 p.m. The show, the actual lighting of the tree will be close to 10 o'clock, actually 9:55 p.m. We will have a massive police presence out there around Rockefeller Center from 52nd Street all the way down to 47th Street. We will have plainclothes out there, a plainclothes detail out there. We will have our CRC assets, our strategic response group assets. We will have our intel division out there, a lot of assets out there to make sure people can come out and have a good time. And we're going to have additional police officers in the subways as well, so people can take mass transit to make it easier to travel into the city and enjoy the tree. This is a terrible event, but we're going to go on, and people are going to enjoy the tree lighting tonight.
All right, we can move on to Marsha Kramer.
I wonder if you could tell me, the mayor said that there was evidence recovered at the scene that would indicate that this was not a random event. I wonder if you could tell me what that evidence was. And by looking at the gun, it appears that there's a silencer on the gun. Was there a silencer on the gun? And does this indicate not only that it was premeditated, but this is somebody who knew his way around guns and might have been a professional?
Once again, we won't know that until we complete our investigation and identify the shooter or recover that firearm. You see a glimpse of the gun in video, so we're not able to make a determination on whether or not a silencer was used on that quick glimpse of video.
Is that a silencer?
We can't tell from that little glimpse of video. I'm not going to commit to saying that at this time. That would be part of our investigation.
And what evidence did you?
There's a cell phone recovered in the alleyway, and once again, we will process that forensically and see if it comes back to this shooting.
So you don't think that the cell phone was the record of Brian Thompson?
Once again, this investigation is less than 5 hours old. That will be part of our investigation.
All right, we're going to move on for Joe Marino, New York Post.
Chief, do we know when Thompson arrived in New York City? My understanding is he was staying close by the Hilton, but not at the Hilton. And has anything in the reverse video cameras indicated that these two individuals crossed paths at all?
As of right now, based on the current video that we do have, it doesn't appear that they crossed paths, and he arrived in New York on Monday.
All right, we're going to take 2 or 3 more. We're gonna go Rocco, Daily News.
Chief, did he typically travel with a security detail? And even though it's early, is there anything to indicate that there had been issues with, let's say, a patient who was denied coverage, either back in Minnesota or more recently, someone who lives here?
From speaking to other employees that traveled with him to New York, it doesn't seem that he had a security detail. He left the hotel by himself, was walking, didn't seem like he had any issues at all. So I don't think he did not have a security detail.
And as far as denied coverage, I know that's typically an issue with these major companies. Any reason to believe he had been the subject of a threat?
Once again, we're looking at everything. We're looking at his social media. We are interviewing employees. We are interviewing family members. We will be speaking to law enforcement in Minnesota.
We're gonna do two more before we wrap up. Shayna?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask if any cursory look at any social media, whether it's the company, whether it's his personal social media, his family's, is there anything obvious that sticks out at this early stage in the investigation?
We have not uncovered anything at this time. The investigation is still too early.
We're gonna go, last question over here with Jake.
How's it going? With the suspect still at large, last seen in Central Park, are you urging New Yorkers to avoid the park? Is the NYPD deploying its drones? I know they recently started doing that in the park. And then also I was wondering, is there any indication when he gets this city bike that he's a city bike member? Like sometimes if you're not a member, you can pay to use it. I don't know if you're able to tell on surveillance.
City, but the chief of detectives will answer the part about the city bike. But in terms of we're encouraging New Yorkers to go about their daily lives and their daily business, but to be alert. We put the picture out. You're putting the picture out. We want people to take a look. If they see anything suspicious, if they hear anything suspicious, we ask them to call 911 and reach out to our detectives. With an incident like this, of course, we put a heavy deployment into Manhattan. We put additional resources out. We have the drones up. We have aviation out. We have K9 out. When an incident like this happens, we don't spare any expense. We put all of our resources out there to support the chief of detectives' mission and to keep New Yorkers safe. So we will have a massive presence out there around the tree lighting, but throughout Manhattan as well until more information develops and we're able to support the chief of detectives and what he needs to make a quick arrest.
As far as where he got the city bike, we're still working that through. Like I said, we're pulling video from numerous locations, numerous sources, and we have him on our timeline walking. And what we're very fortunate is he has that very distinctive gray backpack on. So we see him in one video clip walking, and then another source of video, him riding that bike. So we don't have video or witness confirmation on how he obtained that bike.
We know if it's related to this, or it's just right now what you're saying is a cell phone.
A cell phone was recovered. We will confirm that later on down if we, do our forensic examination.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes our press conference. Thank you for your time and attention.
PD's headquarters, police commissioner, New York City mayor, chief of patrol. Ed, a shocker this morning. I was listening to the news and I heard this develop early this morning. I wanted to get your take on it because you're a retired crime scene unit detective. This is a crime scene that looked pretty extensive. They had quite a bit of an area roped off. What are we looking at here, Ed, and have you been following this?
Yes, I've been following it. I saw it this morning. I couldn't believe it. It looked like a professional hit. The way he presented himself, the way he was able to clear 3 jams and then still, clear the gun and fire and kill the target here. So then we got a lot of evidence. I mean, you can't walk in this area without getting videotaped. Okay, so we got plenty of canvassing that's going on with the detectives. They're pulling video. The cell phone is used. They're going to see if it's a burner phone or whatever the case may be, download it, see what kind of activity is on that phone. And now that they have the phone, they'll look for towers that it was pinging off of before the incident to try to track the movement of it. The city bike is huge too because, you usually have to pay for that. So you either have an account or maybe there's a credit card that was used here to rent the bike and then take off with the bike.
Just a little bit of information for some of the people who are tuning in. The UnitedHealthCare CEO, he's 50 years old, was here for a shareholders meeting this morning. His name is Brian Thompson, CEO from Minnesota. He traveled from the state of Minnesota to came to New York City right outside the Hilton Hotel, which is just coincidentally blocks away from the tree lighting ceremony that they're going to have tonight. And they spoke about that in this press conference. So the shooter, obviously a disgruntled person that had some type of issues with him. This was definitely a targeted attack, as you said, Ed, as we heard in the press conference. But there's eyewitnesses. There was a cab driver or someone who's sitting in a vehicle who actually took a video and a picture of the perpetrator as he was walking away. But I do have some photos and some video of him holding out a weapon. It's grainy, but it looks like it was a longer weapon. And they talked about a silencer, Ed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it looked like a suppressor to me too, even though it was grainy, because the front of the firearm was way longer than a normal firearm would be.
Right. You know, and there was pills on the floor. I'm going to play this piece because I think this is where they showed it. Let's just play this. I'll make it large so everybody could see it.
We're back with more breaking news out of Midtown, where a man has been shot on 54th Street at 6th Avenue, right outside the Hilton Hotel.
All right, and sadly, on the run, still not in custody. The investigation still very much underway. Want to go through the details very quickly as we know them. Fox 5, Good Day New York, first on the scene. We saw as officers attempted to give this man CPR.
Now, I just want to let people know in the chat, they blurred out, obviously, the victim here, the UnitedHealthCare CEO. That's responding police officers given CPR on the scene for this victim. This is prior to him obviously being removed from that location. So if you're sensitive to this type of video, I just suggest you back out and then come back. It's just a few minutes.
PR, those desperate moments. But again, this victim, the man who was shot in the chest, has died. This all happened about 6:45 in the morning outside of the Hilton Hotel right off 6th Avenue. The suspect described as a 6-foot-tall man with a slim build, possibly wearing a cream-colored jacket, black gloves. He took off northbound on 6th Avenue. People who witnessed this situation, there were actually 2 or 3 people who saw it. They said that it appeared that this suspect was waiting for hours, maybe overnight, outside of the Hilton, possibly targeting this victim. It's unclear potentially how these two know each other, what the backstory is here, all part of the investigation this morning. But again, we can confirm that this individual who was shot in the...
So there you have it, Ed. You know, stories always change as they come in. Like the press conference here, they said he was only waiting for him 5 minutes. But I heard in another report, a driver said he saw him there many hours before, like early into the morning. This happened at 6:49, I believe. I wrote it down. 6:46 a.m. Responding officers got there at 6:48 a.m. So immediate 2-minute response. This is obviously, like you said, a targeted attack. But Ed, as it pertains to a crime scene like this, they talked about looking at his social media. They're going to pull all the cameras, and that's the advantage of being in New York City. Every one of these hotels and businesses along there, they all have cameras. So detectives are now pulling these cameras and doing advanced work where they're going from place to place to do, as we call them, the camera pulls. Right, Ed?
Oh, yeah. And we have a unit that's downtown Manhattan that has access to these cameras, and they'll be pulling all the footage. They'll be putting their personnel on looking at these cameras to try to locate this suspect. You know, we got to see if there's any text messages going back and forth or phone calls going back and forth with the CEO. Who was he in communication with prior to this? I mean, was he called outside to meet this guy and then assassinated? You know, you're going to look at the family. Always look at the family first and see what's going on there. Is there any problems with the relationships that this gentleman might have been in? And, you know, you're going to look at recent financial transactions, bank account movements, all this stuff will all be investigated thoroughly. And then, you know, then you look for disgruntled employees, disgruntled patients, You'll look at any threats that he may have received, because if you're the CEO of a healthcare organization, there is going to be disgruntled patients and
Right.
family members of those patients who are going to be upset and threatening the healthcare provider here. Maybe somebody was denied something and somebody died. There's all kinds of angles that we could go through, but it's going to be run down. All of it is going to be run down.
Absolutely. There's a ton of electronic forensics that they will be doing. As they said, it's only 5 hours. This is a very, ongoing investigation. It's in its infancy stage right now, but they will scrub all of his social media. They'll look at all of his email correspondence. This person may or may not have had communication with him or tried in an attempt to send communications to him on his LinkedIn or any of his various social medias. I have another piece. I think this is a little more extensive. If this is 3 minutes.
Well, we're back with more breaking news out of Midtown, where a man has been shot.
I thought I saved two. Let me just take a quick peek.
Well, while you're looking for that, they're going to be working up the ballistics. They're going to look at the class characteristics of the bullets that should be recovered upon autopsy. If they weren't exited from the body, if they were just perforated or penetrated, rather, they'll be in the body, and they'll pull them at autopsy, and then we'll get the lands and groove information, and then we'll get the class characteristics, which would give us a potential manufacturer, make, and model. As of now, we know it's a 9mm. We're going to look at those live rounds that were ejected by the suspect to clear a jam, and then they'll be processed for DNA, fingerprints. The cartridge cases will then be photographed at the back of them. They'll be scanned, and the tool marks will be examined and put into IBIS and IBIN to search databases to see if these similar cartridge cases at other crime scenes had been used somewhere else in the nation, and see if there can be a linkage.
Yeah, and as I'm looking here, he looks to be a very highly regarded executive. Brian was a highly respected colleague and friend to all who knew him and worked with him. And look, on his Instagram, I believe, this might actually be Twitter, there's a picture of him that looks like at a golf outing, shaking hands or fist pounding with a young kid here. This is heartbreaking, to have something like this happen. And again, you make this pilgrimage to New York City every year for your investors meeting. I believe this is an annual event that he's attended in the past. People know that they're doing it. They make these announcements. So there was the question by one of the reporters, Ed, did he have a security detail? Was he denied a security detail? And they answered hands down that he had no security detail. And many corporate execs do not have security details. But as you and I both know, the president and CEO of Northwell Health, he's from Ireland, he has a complete package, something that you would see with the police commissioner or a mayor, because of this very type of incident where you have people who may be denied health care under their health plan, under UnitedHealthCare plan. And I'm not saying that this is the case, but it could be that there's a chance that this could be what we're looking at here. I think this is the piece that I got.
Back with more breaking.
Damn it, it isn't.
But the private security details that are paid for by their companies. The law enforcement doesn't provide CEOs security details. So
it would be private. It would be retired guys. Just like I was talking about that Northwell executive.
Maybe he asked for it and his board denied him that kind of expenditure.
Yeah, I believe they broached on that topic. One of the reporters asked that question. But here's the pictures that I was describing to you. I'm going to see if I can make them a little bigger here. So here it looks like he has the firearm extended out at his victim, pointed at his victim here. These are probably screenshots from hotel security cameras and so forth. but it looks like a longer type barrel. Doesn't look like what you would see in a traditional handgun. Therefore, the silencer comes into play here. No?
Yeah, it could be a suppressor. It is really grainy, but it is a little longer. There's something projecting past the end of the frame.
Right. And also at the bottom here, I'm just going to pull out a little bit. Here's him on a bicycle with the backpack. He's wearing all black, and it looks like he's fleeing on. That might have been an e-bike or something. Look, the e-bike people are mentioning, oh, well, they could track the e-bike who rented it. He could have stole it. It doesn't mean that he got this e-bike legally. So yeah.
When you're saying e-bike, not to be confused with a private e-bike, because they're saying this might be a city.
More breaking news out of Midtown.
Yeah, I believe it was a city bike from New York City. Those city bikes, the blue city bikes that you have to rent. And you have to swipe a credit card to get them. Just a really unfortunate set of circumstances. Right before the Christmas holiday, right before the tree lighting here in New York City. But I saw somebody in the chat say nobody deserves to be killed over your position, over your job, and that is, this is a reminder that life is fragile. No matter where you are or what you're doing. You have to always be aware of your surroundings. And we don't know what happened or how it all unfolded, but you have to, as you always say at the end of these videos, stay safe, stay prepared, watch your six. You can't have your own, and I'm not saying that what this victim was doing, but yeah, you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. And maybe even if he was aware, this could have happened so quickly and caught him by surprise. Maybe he was just stepping out from his hotel room to go get a cup of coffee before this conference, because it wasn't starting until I believe 8 or 9 o'clock. So it's just so sad. I want to say thank you to the 2 super chatters, Fred McCoy from our good friends from the Hatfield and McCoy Museum. Thank you, Fred, for you and Sheila. We got Mylanta from his wife Sheila. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for always being here. DB Bentley, thank you for the $49.99. We appreciate that. Appreciate your generosity, and thinking for myself, thank you for the super chat. And again, this is something that I didn't plan to do, and I didn't tell you about it because I really didn't plan to do it. But when you see our NYPD, and right inside that crime scene was a branded crime scene unit vehicle. Immediately, I thought of you, and I said, "Oh, I got to cover at least the press conference." So, thank you for taking a moment out. This was like no notice whatsoever. But this is just a sad reminder that nobody's safe, no matter where you are. And it's not just about New York City, but when you're higher profile like this, sometimes it's best to have a security package with you. And like you said, they're going to look to see if UnitedHealthCare, if it was requested and denied, or if maybe he just, some execs don't want it. They just don't want the attention. They want to just go about their business, and they feel that they're okay. So we don't know.
Well, you got to take threats seriously, and there's no doubt in my mind that this man received threats. I can't see anybody in his position not having received the threat. Okay, and you can't just blow them off. So you always have to be prepared. You always have to watch your six. Keep your head on a swivel, situational awareness, and you have to have what's called OPSET, or operational security. OPSET. Okay, you have to know that your itinerary is being published. That you go. This is an annual event that you go to every year. So you have your boards, your stakeholders, your stockholders, all that. They're aware of these things. So it's very easy for someone to track the CEO's movements, given that kind of press release and information release that's out there, which we call open source. It's not as if you have to pay for it. It's there in the open public. Anybody can find it. So you need to protect yourself, because the law enforcement can't be everywhere exactly the time that they're needed.
Yeah, 100%, Ed. I want to just show the crime scene here. Anything that you might want to add to it? This is just like kind of on a looping thing, but it looks like crime scene taking photos. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so they have this crime scene tape up, the security. They have the photographic evidence markers down on the ground for all the various evidence there. And
What
it's
about
obvious.
the paper bag, Ed? Hey, you see the paper bag there? He just
Yeah, they're prepping the paper bag for some type of evidence collection and packaging. And you see they're taking close-ups now of the cartridge cases. So they'll have a scale next to it and to give it dimensions when they take the photograph. And they'll walk through each of these. Remember, the first photographs are what we call overall long range of that sidewalk from all different angles. That blue paper is the scale. It has an inch measurement scale on it. And they'll put one of those down for each item of evidence. They won't use the same one from evidence to evidence. And then when all of that is documented, all of it is measured, scared. They probably measured and placed on a sketch. They probably took the scanner out already and scanned this whole scene with the 3D laser scanner.
Ed, a lot of our audiences are well educated by you. I saw a couple of people in chat ask why no booties.
Well, it's an outdoor crime scene. They do things a little differently than I did them. I would have still I would be in Tyvek right now, even though they're not, because they're treating it, like an outdoor crime scene. And, there's not going to be the footwear impression evidence on the concrete that you may have in an interior crime scene or in a field or dirt or area like that might be susceptible to that. The crime scene is limited in scope. And the first type of evidence here that you might be looking for, which was probably blown away, would be hairs and fibers. And so, again, I would be in Tyvek. I don't know why they're not. If you're in Europe and this is an outdoor crime scene like this, you're wearing Tyvek.
Yeah.
The whole 9 yards, the hood, the gloves, the mask, eye goggles, and booties. I would have been,
Eileen just put a comment in. I know it's a little comical. I want to just lighten it up a little bit. She said, no red Solo cups. Yeah, no, definitely not. Sherry,
with the fingerprints off of cartridge casings, in my career, I've dusted thousands upon thousands of cartridge cases, including, when I say dusted, I crazy glued them as well. And the only times I got fingerprints off of the cartridge casings were times that detectives and police officers before my arrival touched them, picked them up with bare hands and left the fingerprints on it. Because given the mechanisms of how the cartridge case is inside of the gun, how it's being stripped out of the magazine and placed in the chamber, when it's fired, the heat, the friction, and the extraction and ejection, all of these things tend to destroy any fingerprints that may have been left on there. Now, if you touch a cartridge cases for a prolonged period of time, the acids from your fingers, from your secretions, from the pores of your fingers, may etch your fingerprint into the brass if it is in fact brass.
Right.
And that will require some lighting techniques and chemical techniques to enhance if it's there at all. But a lot of that will get done at the lab now.
Hey, I want to just point out too, thank you, Ed, for that. Agati says, thank you so much. The red Solo cuff reference was for Karen Reed, police officer John O'Keefe. That's what they use, red Solo cups to collect blood from the snow. But
in New York City, when we have cartridge cases that are on the ground, and in order to safeguard them, historically, what many cops and detectives have done is run to a Greek diner and put a Greek diner coffee cup over it, a clean coffee cup over the cartridge cases to alert everybody, hey, underneath this cup is a cartridge case. Don't kick this, don't step on it, don't move it.
Right. So it could be used in certain instances like that.
As long as it's clean, but not for blood.
Right. I want to point out, this is the actual scene where this executive, Brian Thompson, lost his life. right where my cursor is, where this officer is with the bag, just up against that wall is where we saw earlier them performing CPR on him. So this roped off area, although there's a bigger, as we always do, Ed, we make the crime scene as large as possible with the tape. But this tape, as they're panning, this is great camera work. The tape that she just went underneath, the two crime scene detectives, that's actually where he lost his life. So they're looking and concentrating on that area most, Ed, and no uniformed members of the service, even the ranking officials that are there. I see there's a chief there. I don't know if he's a 2-star or whatever. There is a chief there. They're not going to be going underneath there. The only people that are going underneath there, Ed, is
the crime scene unit. Right. I mean, you have the exclusion zone, which is the actual crime scene. That's where they're in right now. And then you have your intermediate zone, and then your support zone.
Now this gives you a good view of that intermediate zone, the support zone, and then the extended zone where you see all the media in the foreground there with the cameras beyond this crime scene unit van. This is actually, as you were talking, they were showing that perfectly. I don't know if you timed that right, Ed. That was perfect the way you were just describing it. But yeah, as you can see how big this crime scene, and it goes the other way as well, because they're going to follow this off to where the witnesses said that he ran off and then obviously ditched some things, and there was a cell phone found at the location, and then he got on a bike ultimately and pedaled off. So
right, I would want that just, if I was the lead crime scene investigator, I would want to see video of what this guy was doing before the hit. Okay, was he touching anything? Was he wearing gloves or when he touched things? So I would want those areas to look at so that I can go over to see if I can process for fingerprints, DNA, and things of that nature. Also, you're going to follow the route that he ran and look for anything that might have been discarded. You're going to get that cell phone. You're obviously going to do digital forensics on it, but you also want to check it for DNA and fingerprints and things of that nature. This crime scene.
Go ahead. Nadia brings up a great point. The killer knew his gun. It jammed, and he was able to clear it. 3 live rounds, live cartridges were found on the ground because he did have a jam, and he cleared it, but he had to clear it 3 separate times, or he just chose to rack that slide 3 times. I don't know if that makes him, a firearms professional, but he's definitely proficient in the use of firearms. He knew how to clear that weapon.
Yeah. And so he pulled the slide back at least 3 times to eject 3 live cartridges. So he knew that firearm, definitely. I would say definitely.
Absolutely.
Now he probably weak-handed a shot, and it's stovepiped, I'm guessing, because if you don't hold the gun properly, the physics of the gun won't work properly. And if you're limp-wristed and you don't push back against the gun when it's fired, you can cause the slide to not fully eject the empty cartridge, and then it gets stuck in the ejection port. That's why we call it a stovepipe, because it looks like a pipe of a stove sticking out, and then you'll have to clear that in order for the next live cartridge to be put in the chamber.
Right. Yeah. A crime scene like this, Ed, in your estimation, how long does this take to wrap up? Like, when will this be back? This is the Hilton in New York City. What do you look at? Is this a day event, or is this a 2-day event, or would they be cleared with this before the Christmas tree lighting at 7 o'clock?
Well, if they scan this, so that would expedite the measurements and the sketch. Then once they finish picking up all these cartridge cases, if there's no other blood than the victim's blood, then there won't be any blood evidence collection there. They'll follow the running route of the suspect to the alley where the phone was found, and they'll photograph that route leading up to the phone. And if there's any other video that shows where the suspect movements from the alley to the e-bike or the city bike, they will want to document that route with photographs and a sketch as well. and they'll sketch the alley, they'll scan the alley, they'll pick up the phone. Hopefully the phone is still there, or if it was picked up, whoever picked it up is responsible for it. The crime scene unit is not responsible for it now. So that person who picked it up will then have to voucher it and then get it over to the lab for DNA, fingerprints, and for digital forensic analysis.
Yeah.
And if they can track that movement from the alley to where the city bike was, they'll follow that route, photograph it, sketch it, scan it, and finish up there.
Yeah, and Nini just came in the chat and said there was all kinds of speculation on another, I guess, live stream that she was watching. At this time, right now, as we know we go by facts and what was released by the New York City Police Commissioner and the New York City Mayor. The perpetrator is not known at this time. So we do not have any valid information. There may be speculation out there. And ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, Ed Wallace and myself, we do not participate in that type of speculation. A 50-year-old man from Minnesota, CEO of a UnitedHealthCare, his life was taken. He was murdered today. And we're not going to sit and speculate on who the perpetrator is when we do not know. We don't have that information. But I can guarantee you this, the greatest detectives in the world, and I'm not saying this to be cocky, New York City police detectives are on this case, and we will have a perpetrator in custody in a short period of time. What that period of time is, I do not know, but I could tell you that the greatest detectives in the world are going to get this perpetrator and put him in handcuffs. I don't care who it is or what he is or what his nationality is or where he's from. That is irrelevant at this point. And I just want to say, I send prayers and strength and positive vibes to this man's family, his wife. If he has children, I send prayers to them and the extended UnitedHealthCare family. Ed,
Also, from the digital images that you showed from the cameras, they can do photogrammetry, which will allow them to scale the images, the items in the image, and then we can get the height of the suspect, millimeter accurate height of the suspect. And then from the height, they can do anthropological calculations and give you a weight. And so we'll get a little more detail about the height and weight of the suspect.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be so much that goes on, and the technology that we have with our computer crime squad and Taru and all of the good part is that the New York City Police Department has an unbelievable amount of resources and talent. Like I said, and Ed, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Our detectives are going to have a collar. They're going to make an arrest on this thing sooner than later.
No, I concur 100%.
Yeah. So, and that's the only advantage I could see right now that I could give for anybody that's UnitedHealthCare family or his family is this happened in the largest, in one of the largest cities in the United States. I think, New York City detectives and the NYPD, 35 or plus thousand strong, 30 to 35,000 strong. Our detectives are going to get this perpetrator into custody. So let's go to the chat real quick. Anybody has any questions? Hashtag Ed for forensics and crime scene. Hashtag DutyRon. Put them in the chat. We'll take a quick peek. And then I know, Ed, you got to go. I'm at work as well. I got a lot of things going on around me. I'm going to take a peek at the chat and we'll go full screen with this.
Yeah, I'm supervising construction at my nephew's house.
Shocker. All city bikes have tracking devices. Yes, e-bikes. The city, I believe it's by Citibank. Last time I was in the city, I saw they were Citibank sponsored, and you got to use a debit card to rent them. That's the only way you can get it. Cameras everywhere, says Deco Paint and Tea. Yes, they can easily track them.
Yeah. Not only that, there's no mystery here. Because of the amount of cameras that are here, there's no mystery where the shooter was standing. There's no mystery of the positions of the victims. So, like I said, the reconstruction of this is fairly simple. It's all on videotape.
Changed forever wants Ed to please explain again how they can get the height and weight of the perpetrator.
It's called photogrammetry, and from the photogrammetry, you can scale like those planters that are present there, like those little stanchions for loading that say loading. They're a specific dimension and size and width, and then we know what that is, and then the photograph gets scaled, and then from that scale, you can then get the height of the suspect. Now, using anthropological charts and calculations that they have, from that you can then possibly get the weight of the victim as well.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that, Ed. Here's another one. I believe you answered this one earlier, but Lala B says, Ed Wallace, would it be easy to get prints off the live unfired rounds if they're there, that is.
And I answered this earlier, and the answer is typically no. But if the acids had etched into like the brass casing, there's a possibility of highlighting that in the laboratory to extract the latent fingerprint information.
Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of people are in from watching a lot of other live streams, and people commingle this stuff with previous cases. Steve Tremel says, someone tell Delphi, Indiana detectives about this. Yeah, I mean, we could talk about cases all day, every day. And, the next one is going to be Lori Shallow Vallow. We're going to cover that and, the murder of Charles Vallow and how bad the Chandler Police Department screwed that up over in Maricopa County. You and I covered that one extensively, Ed. We went over the body cam footage inside the home and how they let people go in and out of there. We have a lot to say about that. But as we're getting back to here, I'm looking for a couple of other questions. Dr. Christina says, God comfort his family. They got to be, it's got to be horrible for them to tell their children. And no time is a good time to have this happen to anybody, but you got the Christmas holiday season coming up. It's just horrifying, horrific. Anytime is a bad time. This is the utmost worst. Let's see. Anybody else? Question: is there a make of the 9mm weapon that is more prone to a jam? Ed, I'll let you take that.
Yeah. Now, what I talked about earlier, how most jams occur in physics, you have to have equal and opposite forces, right? So think about this. When you fire a handgun like that, the slide is going to push back towards the shooter. The gases, the cartridge will slam into the breech face and push the slide back towards the shooter. Now, if the shooter is not applying an equal amount of force in the opposite direction that slide is traveling, so forward, then the physics of this will not allow the slide to work properly to extract and eject that cartridge and then strip it a live round out of the magazine and place it into the muzzle, into the chamber rather. So a lot of times what happens is that gun will jam that cartridge case in the ejection port. Now, there are also what's called feed ramp jams, and that's when the feed ramp doesn't allow the nose of the bullet to travel up the feed ramp and to allow that bullet, that cartridge, to get into the chamber. There are certain guns that are notorious for that type of feed ramp jam. I'm not going to name any name brands, but most people who own these guns know that. There was one gun in particular that the manufacturer of this gun told everybody, oh, you have to buy this silver tip bullet. You couldn't use any other bullet because they were going to jam in that particular gun. And that was ridiculous.
Unbelievable. I know exactly what you're talking about. I won't mention it. People are mentioning the suits that are coming out of the hotel. Those are probably some of the chief of detectives, some of the main supervisors. This guy going underneath with the cell phone is from the detective squad. The only people that are inside that crime scene going in and out of that lobby, they probably have a command post set up in there, are the investigators that are assigned to this case.
Yeah, you probably have Taru there, the Technical Assistance Response Unit, and they're probably going in to get the security camera footage and download all of that stuff. And Taru is going to be very busy today tracking all the cameras and getting that information.
I'm going to just open this up and listen for a minute.
2, 3.
I'm not sure what this audio is going to be. Okay, this is the wanted poster for homicide. I'm not sure where this is, Ed. This might have been from the press conference.
Yeah, that's probably back at 1PP.
Yes. So 1 Police Plaza is the reference that Ed just made, 1PP. I'm just doing this for the advantage of people that don't know the lingo. But these are, this is the wanted poster, and this is going to be plastered all throughout New York City in every precinct. Every roll call is going to see this picture, this flyer. And this is what's great about having a large police department, a large municipal police department like this, is all of the resources are going to be put out there.
Care was shot and killed in what appears at this early stage of our investigation to be a brazen, targeted attack. This does not appear to be a random act of violence. The victim was in New York City to speak at an investor conference. It appears the suspect was lying in wait for several minutes. And as the victim was walking to the conference hotel, the suspect approached from behind and fired several rounds, striking the victim at least once in the back and at least once in the right calf. Many people passed the suspect, but he appeared to wait for his intended target. The suspect fled, first on foot, then on an e-bike, and was last seen in Central Park on Center Drive early this morning. The victim was removed to Roosevelt Hospital, where he was pronounced. We've been in touch with his family, his friends, and his colleagues, and they are very much in our thoughts and prayers at this hour. The full investigative efforts of the New York City Police Department are well underway, and we will not rest until we identify and apprehend the shooter in this case. The women and men of the NYPD take enormous pride in the work that they do each day and each night to drive down crime and violence in our city. Right now, we are asking the public for your help. If you have any information about this case, call Crime Stoppers at 800-577-TIPS. We have increased the reward in this case to $10,000. I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack. Millions of people will be enjoying the tree lighting tonight, among other holiday events, and the NYPD will be out there with them, keeping them safe. For some preliminary details about today's tragic incident, I pass it over to our Chief of Detectives, Chief Joe Kenny.
Yeah, this is what we saw already.
Yep. I'm going to take it off. I just wanted them to hear. People were asking about the press conference. If you scroll back to the beginning, you'll see the whole thing. This has been our live coverage today. I know you got to get going. I just saw a truck go by, and I saw you concerned with the look of that truck. So Ed's got his eye on things. And Ed, I want to thank you for taking out, just like on a moment's notice, I just sent him, hey, I'm live or I'm going live. And he was like, send me the link. So I knew you were out mobile. I want to thank you for your expertise sharing with our audience. We will do a follow-up on this case once a perpetrator is apprehended or if there's new information coming. And Ed, again, I'm sorry for cutting you off because there was so much information that I had written down that I wanted to get out there. But I know you got to everything that you had to get to. Sometimes it's like, go ahead, Ed.
One last thing. That backpack is quite unique. All right. There's no doubt in my mind that they've identified the make and manufacturer of that backpack, and then they'll get into sales of that backpack, whether it was online or in a box store. They'll track down sales of this backpack. So that's another piece of evidence, another clue that could be used to help identify the suspect.
And Ed, I wanted to kill some early rumors about the pills that are found in the bottle. Our laboratory, those pills were going to be analyzed. Can you just tell the audience what crime scene and evidence collection, what they're going to do with those pills, and how quickly are they going to be identified?
Okay, well, so, they're going to get all the information off the label, and they're going to identify the pharmacy that filled the prescription. They're going to identify the doctor that wrote the prescription. They're going to identify the time and date that the purchase or was paid for the pills. They're going to identify who the patient is for that. In addition, they'll take the pills back. They'll run tests on the pills to ensure that the pills are what the prescription is labeled to be, or if there are any other contents in the pill other than what should be there, to see if there's any poisons or anything like that. So a full toxicology workup, a full pharmaceutical workup on the pills. Then the jar itself, the cap in the jar, will be examined for fingerprints and DNA. They'll also look for hairs and fibers and so forth.
Yeah, and that's even if they are in fact pills. It could be Tic Tacs. It could be breath savers or something like that. Correct?
Right. They're going to identify what it is.
Yeah. So right now there's a bunch of people speculating what it is. Nobody knows until it's confirmed. And that's another thing that we don't do. We won't sit there and speculate on things because, again, behind all of these cases are actual real people and their families. So until that's found out, we won't speculate on it, but that's the process, and that's what will happen. And they'll know this by probably sometime later today, what those actual pills are, if they are in fact prescription, or if in fact they are something that's just over the counter that you could buy at a grocery store or at a pharmacy.
Unlike other police agencies, we have huge numbers of detectives to throw at a problem. So while the squad detective, the precinct squad detective for this command, is going to lead the investigation, they'll be assisted by the homicide squad. They'll be assisted by the technical assistance response unit. They'll be assisted by major case, SID, FID, all these different other detective units will come together to assist. I mean, we have over 7,600 detectives alone in the NYPD. Okay. And so, the detectives will be coming from all over to assist in this investigation, the lead detective, and they'll be running around tasked with different aspects of it, gather up the footage, the video footage, gather information about the city bike, gather information about the pills and all of this stuff. And people will be tasked to do certain things so that poor assigned detective won't have to run around like a chicken without a head doing everything.
Correct. And I'm scanning for the pills on the ground, and I think I found it. So just give me 2 more seconds and fill up just a little bit more talk, Ed, while I find this. I'm just trying to scan to it.
Yeah. So, I'm very confident they'll identify who the shooter is and have that suspect be on the lookout for a bolo, as we call it, and notifying law enforcement throughout the nation to look for this person that is armed and dangerous. And God willing, we'll make an arrest in short order and give this family some comfort.
All right, I thought I had it, but I don't. So, but you guys can go and find it. Just put in a search bar pills found at the location of shooting, and you'll see it. I thought I had it saved, but I don't. Again, I'm at work, so I got to run. I want to thank everybody for watching. This has been our extended coverage live press conference of the UnitedHealthCare CEO murdered here in New York City. Brian Thompson, 50 years young, been in his position since 2021, murdered on sidewalk outside of the Hilton in New York City today. NYPD on the scene, on the case. Ed, thank you for joining, and thanks to everybody for being here. We'll see you on the next one. And Ed, I know you got something to say at the end of all of these things.
Well, always, folks, always. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is, but be safe, be prepared, and watch your six.
And I, again, send on behalf of myself and the community here, strength, prayers, and positive vibes to this gentleman's family. Life taken so young, so sad. quickly taken on the sidewalk here in New York City. So we'll see you guys all soon and on the next one. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Thank you, Ed.